Hello everyone and welcome to session number 7 of the AMBA and BGA Business School Leaders Forum, brought to you by GoToWebinar and LogMeIn. I'm David Woodtail, Director of Marketing and Communications at AMBA and BGA, and for this session I'm delighted to be joined by Amanda Bauman and Kevin Zittle from Salesforce. They're going to talk to us about preparing your students for the future of work, and in a moment I'll pass over to our expert speakers, but just before I do that, I'd like to make you all aware that this session will have a question and answer discussion at the end. So if you have any questions at all for our speakers, just type them in the little box in your control panel and we'll try and get through as many of them as we can towards the end of the session. If we do run out of time though, don't worry, because we'll pass them on to the speakers who will be able to get in touch with you and follow up. I'll be in the line throughout the webinar, so if you have any queries or just want to run anything past me, just pop them in the Q&A box and I'll come straight back to you. I think I've spoken for long enough, so without further ado, I will now pass over to Kevin and Amanda.
Thank you so much, David. All right, welcome everyone. My name is Amanda Bauman and I am Director of Trailblazer Connect at Salesforce. I am here with my teammate, Kevin Zittle, and we are on the Trailblazer Connect team at Salesforce. Our mission is to help job seekers learn Salesforce skills and soft skills. We help them find mentorship opportunities to become job ready, and we connect job seekers to opportunities in our ecosystem via career events. And we're looking forward to sharing information with you today. Speaking of looking forward, Salesforce is a publicly traded company, and I want to give you a quick reminder that if you make any purchasing decisions on our products and services, make sure that you make them on information that's currently and publicly available. Let me start by saying thank you. So thank you for taking the time to meet with us today and for giving us the opportunity to tell you about our company, our mission, and all about the resources that we provide to help students become job ready. These jobs are with companies within our ecosystem, not necessarily jobs at Salesforce, and we'll talk a lot about that today. We truly appreciate your interest, and your success is our top priority. So this is going to be an interactive session. We have a couple of questions to ask you along the way. And we're going to use the meeting platform's poll feature, and we'll ask you to participate by answering each question in the poll. And I want to start by doing a quick pulse check to see what your previous knowledge of Salesforce is. So if you wouldn't mind, David, to launch the poll, and if you'll answer the question for me, how familiar are you with Salesforce? And your options are not familiar at all, somewhat familiar, very familiar, or you're already teaching Salesforce.
Sort of the advanced ones, right?
Yeah. So I will give you just a few seconds to complete that, and then we'll continue. All right, David, how are we doing on the progress there? We good?
Yes, all good. I'm just going to send you the results now.
Great, thank you. All right, and one more question. Have you ever heard of Trailhead before? And that's just a yes or no. If you'll answer that quick question for us. This is just to give us kind of a pulse check on your level of knowledge of our company and the information that we're going to provide to you today. Just give you a couple more seconds to do that, and then we'll close it out. All right. Thanks for answering that question for us. Okay, so what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about who Salesforce is and how we help our customers succeed. We'll discuss the importance of teaching Salesforce skills. We'll help you understand how students can learn Salesforce through our free learning platform and the free resources that we have available for teachers. And finally, we'll talk about resources beyond the classroom. So I'm going to hand it over to Kevin right now to talk about the basics. Kevin?
Thanks, Amanda. Well, hello, everyone. Thanks again for allowing us to join you today and share a little bit about the future of technology. And that's where we wanted to start, because Salesforce Looks like some of you are familiar with Salesforce, but many of you are not. And so we want to give you some background around what Salesforce is and why we think it matters to your students. So we can't talk about Salesforce without talking about the problem that we try to solve. So put on your consumer hat and think about your previous consumer experiences. Today, we are in what we are calling the fourth industrial revolution. Probably heard a lot of talk about that. And the fourth industrial revolution is really about this idea around connected customers, and that we as consumers expect these connected experiences. So what do I mean by that? Think about your last service experience, right? Maybe it was with I know we're not interacting. Usually I use airlines or hotels, but we're not doing too much interaction with airlines or hotels these days. But let's use that airline example, right? You call an airline and you need to change your flight. Well, the hope is that that experience allows you to give some basic information for them to identify you. And then they know your flight details, they know your tier, your status, and they can make those adjustments for you. But think about this as a disparate connected experience, right? What happens if the companies are not connected? Think about the last time you bought a product and then received an email the day after about that, maybe promoting it for a sale or some other marketing email. So we as consumers have come to expect these connected experiences, that a brand, it knows us as a customer, not departments, right? We don't want to feel like we're interacting with the sales department or a service department or a marketing department. We want to feel like we're interacting with the brand as a whole. And so brands are using technology like voice, right? Think about Google and Alexa. We're using technologies like blockchain. We're using technologies like artificial intelligence to make these connected experiences. And just think about some of the most recent experiences. Again, we have companies like Amazon who are creating these seamless experiences of being able to order something with your voice, right? Imagine if you had to type your address into Amazon every single time, right? How miserable that experience would be. So we've got this connected experience, but how do you create those experiences? And that's really where our platform comes in. So Salesforce has built a customer 360 platform. This, by the way, we'll just throw this out here. Amanda and I are all around getting talent into the ecosystem. This will be our last salesy slide here. We are not salespeople at all. So I think it's important to know about our platform, because our platform pulls together various departments across the organization. So whether it's sales or it's commerce or it's service, it's your call center, it's your marketing emails, they all come onto one platform. And they use technologies like blockchain and artificial intelligence and vision underlying to that to make those experiences. So why does that matter to your students? Well, you'll see in a little bit, Salesforce is being used by many of the top companies. What that means is that oftentimes your students, as they graduate, are going into companies using Salesforce. It's one of those like secret behind the scenes brands like ADP, right? And when they join these companies, what they'll find is that they are creating those experiences more than ever. We are seeing a shift from IT work, right? Imagine those days where you wanted to create a report or a marketing journey. It used to be that you'd contact IT, put in a request to assign some budget. Now those are things that we can do as individuals. As a marketer, I can make a marketing journey in a platform like Salesforce. And that becomes really important as a skill set. And that's what you're going to hear us talk a lot about, is Salesforce as a skill set. Now, I also want to mention one more thing, and especially in this climate, I think this is more important than ever. And I've been at Salesforce for about 5 years. Salesforce has been around for about just over 20 years now. And Salesforce has always led with its values. And I say this from experiencing it, right, as an employee. Salesforce has always led with its values, and it is more important than ever that we continue to do so. So I think it's worth a short nod to those values and know us as a company, because you wouldn't know us as a company. It's not just about our products unless you know our values as well. So our first value is around trust, that customers can trust us with their data, right? And they can trust us to be open and transparent, but also that our employees and our communities can trust us. Our second is customer success. We're always about putting our customers first and focusing on their success. We know that we are successful when our customers are successful. So that's really important to us. Third is around innovation. We see that in technology. We see 3 new releases a year, but we're also using our innovation in really different ways. Maybe you've read the New York Times article around how we're working to open our offices, or how we rolled out a platform called work.com that's helping companies reopen after COVID-19. Innovation is part of who we are. And finally, equality. And this one's near and dear to my heart. But how do we create equality not just within our company, but within our communities that we operate? Salesforce has offices in 50+ countries. We're a company of 50,000 employees at this point, and that can have an impact. So I hope you'll indulge me in those. I think it's really important to understand Salesforce as its values alongside with its products. So with that, I want you to walk into this next section, thinking about Salesforce as the technology that powers these experiences. And now we're going to talk a little bit about why those skills matter. So Amanda, back to you.
All right, thank you, Kevin. Okay, so why should students learn Salesforce skills? You go to the next slide, I'll tell you why. So that integrated experience that Kevin just spoke about is paramount to the success of many of the brands that you know and use today. On this slide, you can see just a small sampling of the companies and the brands that use Salesforce to run their customer experience. And as Kevin mentioned, this is all on the back end, and you may not necessarily know when you interact with these companies that you're using Salesforce. Did you know that 97 of the top Fortune 100 companies are using Salesforce? 90% of the Fortune 500 companies use Salesforce. That's a huge number of opportunities to use Salesforce skills. So when students think about the companies that they want to work for and the roles that they want to take, the chances are that the company is using Salesforce in some way. And in fact, we've done some research on just how many jobs will be asking for Salesforce skills in the next several years. And it's not just about our technology or even our company. The global impact of Salesforce is much bigger than both. Together with our partners and customers, we're creating millions of Salesforce jobs around the world. This effect is what the IDC has coined the Salesforce economy. I want to be clear that these numbers were obviously gathered before a worldwide pandemic started. And we don't know really what the global impact for the economy or the workforce is because of that. These numbers, though, are over the next 5 years, and thinking about how businesses are going to recover and how new businesses will be created to address the new normal, it's easy to think that these numbers are still relevant. So according to the IDC, Salesforce economy will add 4.2 million new jobs in the next 5 years and impact our GDP by over $1.2 trillion. That's equivalent of Thailand's and Belgium's GDP combined, or the population of New Zealand, all getting new jobs. This number is 4 times bigger than Salesforce itself today, and it will grow to 6 times bigger in the next 5 years. And it includes all of the partners and the customers who are innovating on Salesforce and hiring for Salesforce skills. And because so many companies are hiring for Salesforce skills, millions of Trailblazers are going to need to learn Salesforce skills to transform their careers and their companies. So with such a large demand for Salesforce skills, we set out to create a huge growing economy of skilled people and partners ready to help those companies succeed. And these skills span multiple industries, as we saw from the brands on the previous slide. And beyond that, these skills span multiple disciplines as well. So let's take a look at at what that might look like. Salesforce skills aren't all about technical skills like developing and administration. And while those jobs are really important and they are sought after roles, there's also non-technical roles. For example, business analyst, marketing, consulting, and sales, just to name a few. Think about Salesforce as the new PowerPoint or Excel, right? Everyone needs these skills at some point to record customer interactions, complete business processes, or make data-driven decisions. So after this presentation, if you visit the URL on the screen, trailhead.salesforce.com/career-path, you can dive deeper into each of these careers and explore what it takes to take on one of these roles, including what a day in the life looks like, plus a curated learning path to help students get started along the path. Let's take a closer look at a couple of these roles. So this is a super common role that many of your students might go into, the business analyst. Many of the skills that students learn in the MBA program are the same skills that recruiters are looking for when hiring for a business analyst role. And by the way, the demand for this role increases by over 24% year over year. Soft skills for this role include communication, organization, writing, problem solving. I'm sure these all sound familiar because they're all core to the MBA programs. Specialized skills include business analysis, data analysis, and data management. Add to that the Salesforce platform and some scripting languages like SQL and Python, and graduates are off to a solid start along their career path. Let's take a look at one more role in our ecosystem. The business consultant. Business consulting is a very common role for MBA graduates, and the skills learned during the MBA program are particularly useful in this role. Understanding complex business challenges, breaking them down, and solving them with innovative solutions. The demand for these skills grows by 9% year over year. And the soft skills that recruiters are looking for, again, are a core part of the MBA curriculum. Communication, collaboration, writing, presentation, problem solving. Specialized skills include project management, business development, customer service, sales, and an understanding of the sales process. And if you add Salesforce skills, that rounds out this career opportunity quite significantly. Let's go to the next slide, Kevin. There's a major demand for new skills. In fact, according to a recent study by IBM, 120 million workers are going to be in need of reskilling just in the next 2 years. Graduates coming out of college and university should be aware of these latest innovations, and they should learn while they're in college so that they're ready for the jobs that require these new skills. And these skills may not exist today. Let's look at the role of the data scientist as an example. 8 years ago, this role was very specialized. Today, this role is in high demand as companies gain new tools and surface their data. But how can students learn these new skills? I'm going to pass it over to Kevin to tell you how they can do that.
Awesome. Well, hopefully you understand what Salesforce is, a little bit about us as a product and as a company, and now how important those skills really are, right? I think what I really took away, Amanda, from that is that every role that someone is going into post-graduation, their chances of using Salesforce, the chances that their company are using Salesforce is really high. So before I dive into what resources we've made available, I want to launch another poll. Which of these skills, we're going to list you a handful of different skills here. Which skills do you believe will be most important for your students to know before graduating? So let's go ahead and launch that poll, and we'll give you a second to answer that. Right, so those options: leadership, technology tools, and you can select more than one if you'd like, market trends, soft skills, and digital transformation. Probably should have had a follow-up to this around how those have changed over the last few months, but you may notice that our current climate has changed those, but let us know which ones are most important. All right. So I want to start this conversation around a tool. We asked this question at the beginning. It's like most of you are not familiar with Trailhead, but Trailhead is Salesforce's online learning platform. It's completely open and free for everyone, and it's self-paced and based in skills that every student and professional needs. Now, you might have seen me setting you up there for success. Trailhead teaches not just Salesforce skills. It teaches all of those core Salesforce skills that Amanda spoke about, but it also teaches business skills and soft skills. And all those skills, regardless of what answer you just gave us on our last slide, those skills are available on Trailhead as well. So we have a series of soft skills around everything from leadership to presentation skills to storytelling that we make available on Trailhead. And all of these are in these short badge formats. They're all self-paced, so learners can go through and learn at their own pace. And they earn badges. It's very gamified, so they can earn badges. And they can earn these resume-worthy credentials, these credentials that show employers they have these Salesforce skills. And we have some awesome opportunities that we'll talk about at the end on how they can connect beyond the platform to our amazing Trailblazer community. We're just full of millions of Trailblazers or Salesforce leaders around the globe that are using Salesforce at their company. So we're not going to dive in too much into Trailhead. I would highly encourage you to check it out. Trailhead.com, you can go check that out. But what I do want to do is show you a couple of badges just so you can get an idea of the kind of content that we're making available on Trailhead. Now, today there are 700 plus badges on Trailhead. They keep making more and more available. Every week there's new badges released. But I want to show you some of the badges that we offer. I'm looking right now at the poll that we just ran. Looks like a large percentage of you said things like leadership and tech tools are really important for your students. Market trends, soft skills. So let's show you some examples of real badges. I pulled two together, two little collections together. The first for undergrad programs. And you can see here we focused on basics of Trailhead, how to use it, the tool. And then we've dived right into using Salesforce. Things like, how do you use accounts and contacts in the CRM? How do you build reports and dashboards for marketers or for managers? And then we've also included, and this is actually Amanda's favorite badge. Amanda wanted this one on the slide. It's called Build a Cat Rescue App. This is really cool. It uses artificial intelligence and image recognition. You can upload an image of a cat and it will tell you what kind of cat it is, which personally I think is just mind-blowing. It's like super cool to see that technology in use. But here's the cool part, that technology is the same technology that's being used by companies like Coke to automatically do inventory for their fridges. Right? You go to a store and they've got those little fridges near the register full of Coke products. Well, instead of sending someone out to do inventory, they're using this image recognition tool on Salesforce to be able to take images and automatically figure out how many bottles of each is left in the fridge. So talk about students learning skills that are valuable to them today and are being in use. And there's also content like blockchain basics that will teach students the basics of blockchain and how to start thinking about that. I think we're all in education trying to figure that out, right? Why not give your students that head start? So you can see lots of content around the tools and how we're thinking about future technologies. So let's look at one for an MBA program. You can see we've shifted away from tools and more towards leadership, the roles we normally see MBA graduates going into. So you can see we've included things like inclusive leadership practices. Amanda and I are both based in the US, and we are going through a crisis in this country. And things like inclusive leadership are more important than ever. So what if you include this as part of your training, right? It's part of your students graduating, they're learning these skills. Or we recently launched this empathetic leadership badge, which is all around how do you empathize with your employees in this new COVID-19 situation. Those are super valuable skills for students to have. We've included some about artificial intelligence. This responsible creation of artificial intelligence is really cool. It thinks about this problem, right, that we're all facing, we're very rapidly having to face, around what are the right and wrong uses of AI. You've seen comments from IBM, right? IBM shut down their facial recognition program recently, right? This question of what is the right way to use AI is becoming really important. We have a badge on that. Students can go online to trailhead.com today, and they can take that badge and learn those skills. And we've also made our entire leadership training available. So all the same training that our managers at Salesforce go through, we've put it on Trailhead. You can see it's 12, almost 13 hours of content. It's a lot of content, but it covers everything from organizational alignment to empowering your employees. We've made it all available on Trailhead. So I would highly recommend you go take a look, trailhead.com. Again, it's completely free forever. You don't need to be a Salesforce customer. You can go online, you can start taking those badges. And it's worth noting that on Trailhead, there are two different types of learning kind of knowledge checks, if you will. There's a standard knowledge check based on quizzes or questions. And then there's hands-on challenges, which actually allow your students to get into the Salesforce product. And Trailhead will prompt them with an ask. They'll go into Salesforce and complete that ask. And then Trailhead will actually go and check to make sure they did it correctly. So they get that instant feedback within the tool. So Trailhead, badges being added every single week, a lot of really topical badges. But on top of that, our team has curated some resources for educators. Amanda and I, we work with educators all over the globe at all levels, community college, higher education, MBA graduate. And what we try to do is bring together best practices from education organizations and resources and curate this content so that when you go to Trailhead, you're not bombarded by the 700 plus badges trying to figure out what's the right content for your classroom. In fact, you saw an example of our curation just a few slides ago. But we have some really cool resources available to you. Again, these are all free, all available online. You can see the URL on the bottom there, sfdc.co/educator-portal. And what you'll find there are best practices, right? We've put together a guide around other education institutions and what they're doing and what we suggest. We've curated trail mixes or compilations of Trailhead content around specific topics. You can go and find the topic that you're teaching or interested in teaching. And especially for undergraduates, we've been building these classroom resources, these kits around specific roles. So think back to the slide that Amanda showed a little earlier with all the different roles. Well, we've been creating full courses designed to meet the needs of those roles. So I'll give you an example. We recently launched a sales rep course, which teaches through slides. We've got a slide and a talk track for you as an educator. Talks about the core concepts of sales. So it covers things like what's B2B versus B2C, or how do you qualify a lead, or what's a sales process, those core concepts. And then we've paired it with Trailhead content that will teach the actual tool. So you don't need to be an expert in Salesforce to teach these classes. Trailhead will do that for you. And you can focus on those core concepts that are so important to your students as well. So you'll find all of those resources plus a lot more. We've got marketing assets. We've got that IDC report that Amanda mentioned. You can find all of that on the URL on our educator portal there. So I would highly recommend going and checking that out. Now, I thought it would be helpful to give an example, kind of show you what that looks like. So if you are interested in teaching Salesforce, the process we are presenting here is really the process that we see a lot of organizations go through. We find it's best to figure out your educators. Identify those educators that are passionate about teaching technology. You probably know who they are. I like feel like if we were in a room here, we'd see the deans nodding. You're like, oh yeah, I've got that one educator who's teaching advanced technology, right? Or thinking about blockchain and AI in their classes. Right? So identify those people. Figure out who is best fit to teach Salesforce, and then start to figure out where does that make sense. Are there existing courses that you're already teaching where this makes sense? Right? Are you teaching marketing strategies or CRM, where something like this tool would make a lot of sense? And then take a look at our educator portal and the resources we have and start to find the right resources for the class and the objectives you're trying to meet. We see that's the kind of standard process we see a lot of schools go through. So I know a lot of you love your case study, so I thought I'd give us a little case study, a real live example of a school and what they did. So this is a MBA program in the US, and their goal was really to help their students understand some of this new technology, right? They were talking about AI, they were talking about blockchain, and this high level concept. And so what they did is they looked at their courses and they were teaching a marketing management and digital marketing class. And it seemed like the objectives really lined up well there. And what they decided to do is teach Salesforce within an existing unit. So when they cover segmentation and targeting, which is one of their units they cover in that class, they've now inserted these Trailhead modules into the classroom assignments. You can see I've put their Trailhead modules that they're using. They're using 4 of them. It's roughly 3 hours of content, right? Pretty easy assignment for students. But it covers things like the basics of Einstein, which is our artificial intelligence tool. Covers some around data analytics. And then it has that responsible creation of AI badge that we mentioned earlier. Now, in addition to Trailhead badges, they're also using guest speakers. And they're using guest speakers as a way to connect with their community, that Trailblazer community I mentioned, full of Salesforce professionals who are in companies and using this right now. And they're taking advantage of our customer stories. So if you go to salesforce.com/customers, you'll see a bunch of use cases, a bunch of videos, interviews with top leaders at top companies that show you not just how they're using Salesforce, but really how they're thinking about Salesforce as a technology. And so they're using those as case studies. There's a great one. Adidas has an amazing one about how they transformed their digital marketing. Adidas now is a truly, even before COVID, a digital experience. And they've been using Salesforce for that. That's a really popular one. Check that one out. So they've combined Trailhead badges with guest speakers from the community and these customer stories on salesforce.com to really give them this idea around technology and future technology within an existing course. Now, sometimes we see new courses built, other times they're adding it kind of throughout the course or in a unit like this one is here. So lots of different opportunities for you to integrate and add Salesforce into your class. So I want to kind of take a pulse check here and just figure out how valuable you think this content will be to your students. So we've talked a little bit about all of these skills that you can teach through Trailhead and the future of AI and blockchain and some of these tools. Think back to what you said was most important. And David, let's go ahead and launch that poll and let's find out how valuable you think some of this content will be. I'm just giving you some simple options. You think, nope, this won't be valuable at all to our students. Maybe this might be interesting for some of them. Or will this help them prepare for their future roles? So we'll give you all a minute to answer that. course, this session is being recorded, so if you want to go back and check out any of those resources like the educator portal or the modules that I mentioned, that will all be available in the recording as well. All right. So now that we've talked about Salesforce, we've talked about who we are as a company, what skills you can learn, where are the roles that your students will be, potentially using Salesforce when they graduate. I want to wrap up with how your students can use Salesforce or get engaged with Salesforce beyond the classroom. And so Amanda's going to lead us through that now.
All right, thank you. First off, though, I'm going to ask a question. I did mention in the beginning that this is an interactive session. So the question to all of you, do you ever use industry guest speakers in your classroom? Let me know, just give me a yes or no. And it's a leading question because I'm going to tell you about some resources that are available to you today for your classroom.
We love those leading questions.
And as we mentioned, everything that we've talked about today is completely free, by the way. You don't need to register for anything. You can just freely start using Trailhead, and you can freely start using our tools and programs. All right, how are we looking on that poll? Awesome. Okay. All right, so we talked about Salesforce as a company. We talked about why you should learn Salesforce skills. We talked about how you can learn Salesforce skills. What I also want to bring up is everything that we do is supported by our amazing Trailblazer community. And if you're looking for great industry speakers to talk to your class, our community—
Which, by the way, Amanda, 100% of people use guest speakers, all right? Everybody on this call is using guest speakers. So I know you're all looking for guest speakers there.
Yeah, so we can hook you up with guest speakers. Our community always responds to the call. So if you're ever in need of a guest speaker to come and talk about how they use Salesforce in their daily work or how it impacts their industry, you can bring them in to have a conversation. And I've yet to see an instance where someone asks for a speaker and nobody responds. It's never happened. Beyond that, though, beyond learning in the classroom, students also can benefit from joining the Trailblazer community, building their network in the community to help them connect to their next opportunities. Our team helps prepare the community leaders, the people who run user group meetings and events all around the world, by providing guidance and content to help students succeed in our ecosystem, from networking events to volunteer activities, where community members can help students by reviewing their resumes or even conducting mock interviews. With the current pandemic, these communities have now turned to virtual meetings. And actually, this is an unexpected side effect of that is people can now go to meetings that they may never have had the opportunity to go to previously because everything is virtual. So it's a great opportunity to learn from and network with experts in the Salesforce community all over the world and people that they wouldn't normally have access to. There are over 300 community groups in EMEA and over 1,000 community groups worldwide. And also, our Trailblazer community is the engine in our Trailblazer Connect mentorship program, which I'll talk about a little bit in the next slide. You can ask any great leader how they got to where they are today, and the chances are that someone helped them get there. A mentor or a colleague who advised them or inspired them. And I like to call this sending the elevator back down. And our community, like our company, is a culture of giving back. Networking in the community is also an easy way for professionals to network around a platform or technology that they want to learn. So there's a URL on your screen. I want you to save it for later, but visit trailblazer.salesforce.com and check out the vibrant community, and probably you'll find a group near you that you can maybe just join a meeting and observe and see how that community can help your students. All right, finally, everything we shared with you today, you can access by visiting our webpage. The URL is sfdc.co/AMBA-20. And I will point out, this is case sensitive, I think. So make sure that your AMBA is all caps. And there you can access all of our free in-classroom resources. We mentioned earlier about bringing Salesforce into the classroom. And from this page, you can explore the curated trail mixes that we mentioned earlier. And you can also check out the role-based courses. We are bringing more of those to life as we speak. You can also download marketing assets. We mentioned that earlier to help you get the word out if you're teaching Salesforce-related classes or if you're having any Salesforce-related activities on campus. And you can also learn about our teams, including our team, Trailblazer Connect, and all of the things that we do to help students and educators prepare students for jobs in our ecosystem, plus Trailhead for Partners and Tableau. And also, added bonus, if you want to schedule a 20-minute call with one of our teams, there's an opportunity to do that as well. So with that, I'm going to open it up for some questions. If you have a question, type it into the question box in the meeting tool, and we'll see if we have any questions right now. David, are there any questions?
Amanda, I was just going to mention that some of you may have noticed Tableau on there, and we didn't really talk about that. That's a fairly recent acquisition for Salesforce, but Tableau, if you don't know, recently joined the Salesforce team, and Tableau has a full academic program as well. So if you're teaching a data program, again, Tableau is a leader in that space. We're so happy to have them as part of our family. So they have a full program as well. Definitely check that out from that URL as well. We'll link you right out to their program.
Absolutely.
All right, David, back to you.
Okay, we've had loads of questions. So first question we've had through is, have you had instances of business schools implementing just one or two of your training modules into a program at postgraduate level? And if so, what were the modules and what was the feedback from students?
Yeah, I would say that that's kind of the most common use case, right? I would say in undergrad, it's a little bit more common to see full courses around CRM taught, but especially at that graduate level, having a couple of key modules to get your students introduced to not just Salesforce, but also the Trailhead platform. We know these students are going to go and learn on their own. They're very excited and capable of doing that. So pick a couple. And I would say as far as recommendations, you take a look at the ones that we mentioned in that MBA slide. I think this question is probably asked before then, but take a look at those modules I recommended on the MBA slide. And then we've got more recommendations on our educator portal as well. As far as feedback goes from students, we often see many of them learn a few badges on Trailhead and then just devour the rest of our content. And there's a lot of really valuable content, and being able for them to kind of learn on their own is always really helpful. I will share a recent piece of feedback I got with an MBA program who just started to teach a little bit of Salesforce. And so the educator, she said, I'm just going to give them 2 modules, just kind of get started. And what she came back and told me was, oh, actually, like half of my students are using Salesforce already, or their company uses it. And this is a really valuable skill. And so we really unlocked that opportunity for them to learn and advance in that. So I think what you'll find is if you ask who's been using Salesforce or whose companies use Salesforce, you'll see a lot of hands go up in the classroom.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so someone else has asked, so Salesforce is one technology within this space, but how should we think about educating for the broader AI and blockchain, for example, but still pointing students towards the skills for the roles that you've discussed?
Happy to take that one again as well. I agree. I obviously there's a lot of different technologies that are out there that are doing this. What I would mention is that some of our badges are Salesforce specific, but many of them are not, especially when we talk about AI and blockchain and future technologies like that. A lot of the content that we're building on Trailhead is relevant, is platform agnostic, right? It's really relevant to learners regardless of what tool they end up using. It's really about thinking about how that technology works and how to get started there. And then from there, you should absolutely introduce your students to some of the various tools that are being used in that space. But it's really important to get them thinking about that. And I should mention, by the way, all of our Trailhead content is written by experts, either inside of the company or in partnership with other companies or industry leaders. So you're really getting content from people who are living this and spending their time on this. So get them started on that, introduce them to other platforms, make sure they have that base so they can go out and understand the technology and how it should be used.
Great, thank you very much. This is a question about sort of segmentation and target audiences, and the person who's asking is interested to find out if you target children and high school students as well as college and university level.
I can take that one. Our programs actually are geared more towards higher education, although there are companies and there are organizations that do introduce Salesforce at an earlier age. And in fact, we have community members who run summer camps for students in the summers here, where they might teach about Salesforce, or they might do some Trailhead badges as well. At our conferences, we also have kids coding camps and things like that. So while our department isn't geared towards anything below higher ed, I know that there are a lot of resources that are available for K through 12 as well. Kevin, anything to add?
Yeah, we just released a few compilations of resources. So if you just search for Salesforce and K through 12 resources or parent resources, there is a blog by salesforce.org, our foundation arm, as well as from our team, focused on some of the resources that parents can use at home. Obviously, the school is being shut down, and with some of those younger audiences. So just do a quick search, or you can certainly reach out to us, and we're happy to point you to those resources as well.
Yeah.
Lovely, thank you very much. A few people have asked us some questions about soft skills in particular, so I'm going to try and combine these into one. So somebody's asked how Salesforce Trailhead works to teach soft skills. I think they're looking for some sort of practical examples around that. And someone else is asking if they think there's if you think there's an increasing or growing need for specific modules to teach soft skills at business schools, or can teaching methods promote critical thinking and communication to generate the necessary soft skills for potential employees?
Yeah, all of the above, right? I would say this caveat, obviously, when we're teaching soft skills on Trailhead, there's only so much we can do, right? Especially when you think about, problem solving or presentation skills, right? Some of these really do require interaction, and that's where that classroom experience is so valuable. But there are a lot of soft skills modules on Trailhead. Would highly recommend taking a look at them, that cover everything from well-being to storytelling to how to think about solving problems and business process improvement. So use it as a starting point, use it as a platform to have some of those conversations. But obviously group work is really important in a lot of our programs for a reason, right? And some of those skills just need to be gained by interacting with others in the classroom. But use it as a talking point, use it as a place for them to start thinking about those things and then grow from there. We've got, again, tons of recommendations on soft skill content. If you go to our educator portal, we have some specific ones. We also, I'll just do a quick shout out to some of our career ready resources. We know that soft skills are even more important then. And so we have a handful of trail mixes or collections of Trailhead content that are specific to getting your resume ready, getting ready for that interview, getting ready for that job search, especially for the undergrad audience. So we've got some great trail mixes or curated content around that as well. So check those out.
Yeah, it's also
Brilliant.
interesting to note, Kevin, too, that inside of the soft skills modules that are on Trailhead, there's also links out to other resources as well outside of Trailhead. So, you know, referencing not just from our experts and our own experience, but people out in the field who are experts in those skills as well.
Great, thank you very much both. The next question is, I guess it's more looking at the sort of insight and research that you've been carrying out. And they're asking if you think that student skills and the focus on skills before graduating have changed due to the impact of COVID-19 over the past few months.
This is still new, right? We're rapidly trying to think about this and how it impacts all of our students. But I would say the short answer is yes.
I
absolutely.
think it's different than presenting in front of a classroom.
Yeah, I would say, you know, skills like present. Oh, I think did we lose Amanda? Oh, I think skills like presenting and virtual work and working from home, working remotely are becoming increasingly more important. And we have modules on that. We're rapidly creating content around that. But I think long term, you will absolutely see these skills shift, and maybe that's a call to action. Actually, maybe we can our team we can go back to our team and have us curate some of those resources around that. So stay tuned for that. We'll work on that. But you know, I think the skill set is certainly changing. The core won't, but we are definitely thinking about how we work remotely, how we interact completely remotely, and I think some of the skill sets that underlie that are really important and are showing up on Trailhead already. There's a full other side that I won't really go into around work.com, which is a set of products that we've customized for organizations that are coming back to work. Fingers crossed that this pandemic ends, you know, swiftly, and we can kind of all go back to a somewhat new normal. But there might be, you know, if we see this extend or go for any period of time, there might be increased content and awareness around tools like that, right? When you think about how do you manage the safety and well-being of your employees, how do you track that, right? Obviously, Salesforce, you know, is using our own platform as a way for us to track our employees and thinking about COVID cases and thinking about temperature checks and coming back to the office and all of those things. So stay tuned, we'll see where that goes, but certainly the core skill sets are changing slightly. Hopefully that answers the question.
Also even around digital transformation too. Hopefully you can hear me okay now. I just had a bandwidth issue. Thinking about, you know, companies who used to be brick and mortar and then because of COVID had to close their doors and now have to do e-commerce. Even that has changed just in the last couple of months as well. And so more demand for those digital transformation skills as well.
Great point, Amanda. Yeah.
Brilliant, thank you very much. We're still getting questions coming through, so I'm going to try and combine a couple again. So I think this person's asking for some insider information. So they're wondering if you might be able to share some information about badges or partnerships you're looking to launch over the next 12 months. And that sort of connects quite nicely to the next question, also your comments, Kevin, on the new normal. Somebody else is asking, what are your predictions for technology and how this will have an impact on the classroom in the near future?
So with regards to the first question around, you know, badges and partnerships, a separate team is kind of focused on, you know, building the amazing content on Trailhead. But I would say you're going to see more partnerships around kind of these core technologies, AI, blockchain, digital transformation, right? Connected experience. So, you know, stay tuned for that. Again, we're releasing content every single week. So there's a lot of content there. If you look at the organizations we've partnered with in the past, AWS, you know, there's a lot of focus around technology, GitHub, things like that, iOS, Swift development. But there's also a lot of interest around getting job seekers ready. We saw a whole class of students that just graduated. Many either had internships modified or canceled completely. So I think you'll see more content around courses and roles specifically, right? So roles like those sales development roles, or some of those entry level roles that maybe students would have had internships for. You'll see some content around that as well. We're certainly doing that. We're releasing content around, we've got a course coming up for business users and kind of the core of using Salesforce as a business user coming up in the next few weeks. I think you'll see more resources like that. The second question, remind me of the second question there, David.
The second question was if you could share some information about what your predictions for trends in technology will be in the near future.
I would say forward-looking statement. We are not futurists or technologists, but I would say that the trends that we're seeing within Salesforce are the ones that I mentioned before. There's a lot of interesting work coming out of Salesforce, so definitely take a look at that. You can check out work.com. Just work, WORK.com will take you to that website where we're putting together all of the resources around this new normal. So I would say check that out. We're rapidly thinking about how offices are changing, how work is changing, how brick and mortar commerce companies are changing, and we're putting all of that there. So take a look at work.com.
Yeah, and also just to share a little bit about how the new normal is impacting us. You might know that some of our conferences have been canceled, and many of them are turning to online, just like this one today. So I think we're going to see a big uptick in people using more online tools. For example, we have a career fair coming up actually next week, where everything that we do will be online, and normally you do it in person, and we've had to rethink everything that we're doing. So I think we're going to see that as a growing part of the industry as well, is how do we move to online content and online deliverables.
And with that, I would just say the benefit to all of you on the call today is, as we make these experiences digital, they are also becoming free and available and accessible. So we've got our developer conference coming up next week. I know that we're going to be talking about some technology around the future and work.com and around the future of the office. So take that opportunity, right? This is a conference that normally you would have had to travel to, and buy a ticket for, and now these are becoming instantly available. So we've got Trailhead DX, our developer conference coming up. So if you're in CS or you're teaching technologies like AI and blockchain, that would be a really valuable event. There's Higher Ed Summit was yesterday, which is our higher ed focused conference. A lot of those resources are available online as well, so you can go watch recordings and check out that content. So take advantage of that. Dreamforce, the big annual Salesforce conference, draws hundreds of thousands of people, is going online, right? Take this opportunity to join in and hear from industry leaders around those topics as well.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, both. Unfortunately, I think that's probably all we've got time for today, but thank you once again, Kevin and Amanda, for an excellent session. And thank you so much again to Salesforce for their support in helping us bring this virtual event. You can find out more about Salesforce as well as all our sponsors and partners via our virtual exhibition. And I've popped some details about that into the chat box, so you'll see that come up. Just click on the link and you'll be taken straight through. Just wanted to remind you all that our next session in the conference is What is the Value of the MBA in Today's Business Environment, hosted by Maria Jose Amic, Executive Director of the Lisbon MBA at Católica Lisbon and Nova. That will take place tomorrow morning. That's Thursday, the 18th of June at 9:30 a.m. BST. If you've already signed up for the session, you will have or will be about to receive an email from us with the link to join. But if not, I'll just pop the link in the chat box for you all. So just copy and paste this into your browser and you'll be able to register. Just before I go, if you've missed any of the sessions, we've put all the recordings of the first 5 already on our website for you. and I've pasted a link in the chat room so you can find it and access the content. Also, just wanted to mention, some of you have emailed me and mentioned that you'd like to know more about networking and sharing ideas following sessions. So we're going to make the attendee list for all the sessions available on our website. For security reasons, we're going to make sure these are password protected, but I'll be sure to securely send you the details of how you can access these, over the next couple of days. I would also recommend that you follow the hashtag BSLF on the social media channel of your choice, comment on our posts, share our learnings, let us know what you think, and have a good old socially distanced conversation online. Please remember, we still have loads more sessions to come, and you can see all the remaining sessions and register via our website. So all that remains to be seen is thank you once again to Amanda and Kevin for taking the time to speak to us today. I look forward to seeing you all, hopefully tomorrow morning or in another session at the forum. Thanks again, Amanda and Kevin, and bye.
Thanks so much for having us. Thanks.
Bye. Thank you so much.